Welcome to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. This podcast is designed to provide momentum in our God-given roles of leadership as we partner together to equip today's Christian leaders for tomorrow's opportunities. Whether you're a pastor, youth leader, ministry volunteer, parent, or student, we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource for equipping and encouragement when it comes to your ministry and leadership influence. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for today's conversation. Today we have with us the one, the only, the legend, the GOAT, Todd Pearage. Todd, welcome.
Man, it is so good to be here. And for a split second, I thought you had somebody else. I thought it was I'm on the wrong podcast.
Well, bro, for one, if our listeners are listening to this on regular podcast platforms and you're not watching on YouTube, you got to just hop over to YouTube and look at my twin. So not only are we wearing the same Youth Leader Summit t-shirt, I trimmed my beard and put in some white. I thought about this. I told him I thought about this morning, just to trim my beard down to a beautiful white goatee and put on my clear rimmed glasses here and just change my name to Todd.
It was a little spooky.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, they say.
Yes.
Well, bro,
man, I appreciate it. That's so fun.
It's been awesome getting to know you and what you do. And we got to hang out at the Youth Leadership Summit back in all of 3 weeks ago at New Jersey at Harvey Cedars. And I love what you're doing. And I love how God's using you and your ministry. Just briefly to introduce you, and I'll let you kind of elaborate on some of this, but you are a shepherd with Standing Stone Ministry. You are the host of the DYM podcast called Youth Ministry Soul Keeper. You are a featured author and all things games extraordinaire on DYM. And now, Todd, as if you needed one more thing to do, you're the president of Youth Leader Oasis and launching these youth leader summits all over the country. Did I miss anything? Husband of Linda, and
that's what I was going to say. Married for, it'll be 30 years this year. And so, yeah, been married 30 years, 3 kids, live outside of Pennsylvania, and a diehard Steelers fan. Is probably the only other pieces of information that need to be included.
I love it. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, you also see that Todd has all of the Steelers gear in the background, and I have all of my Cubs and Bears gear in the background. And so we won't even get into the fact that you have to have a terrible quarterback named Aaron something he shall not be named as your quarterback this year. So good luck winning anything.
Thank you. 2 things real quick on I'm very firmly in the wait and see camp. I don't know what to make of all of it. So I am squarely. So when we roll this around, mid-November, I will have said clearly I am in the wait and see camp. Secondly, the pennant that is right there behind me, my grandfather attended Super Bowl 10 in Miami against the Cowboys, bought that for me, passed away a few months later. It's legacy. It's my inheritance from him. So, that's a special pennant. And I know looking behind you, I'm sure you could point to 1 or 2 things ago. Man, this is the thing. If my office is on fire, I'm grabbing this and running out.
I love it. Well, several youth pastors that I know are already going to love you because they're Steelers fans, and that's okay. So, God's grace is for everyone.
Exactly. Perfect.
Well, give our listeners just a quick snapshot of your ministry journey and just kind of talk about some of the different hats that you wear, and then I'll kind of dive into where we're going here in the conversation today.
Yeah, sounds great. And I do want to say in all sincerity, I mean, it has really been so fun getting to know you. I feel like we just met and we had a couple of conversations, and it's been my experience in ministry. There's sometimes you just connect with people, and I love what you're doing. And so I felt like we were just two guys cut from the same cloth. And so it really is super fun and an honor to be here with you today. I would say just real quick, my journey started as a kid who grew up in a Christian home. And by the time I got to like middle school, in the small church that we attended, my good friends stopped going to church. They were involved in sports and other things. And I'd see them in school and be like, how come you guys aren't in church anymore? Right. Like we were all good church friends. And I remember one of them saying, I don't want to go. And I'd be like, well, I don't either, but my parents make me. And they're like, oh yeah. No, I just told my parents I didn't want to go. So I tried that. And on a Sunday morning, I came to the kitchen and just announced that I'm not going to church anymore. There was lots of yelling. Something flew across the room at me. It was like, get in the car because we're going to church. Yeah. And so I just was like forced. I was one of those kids that like we have in youth group and in youth ministries who's forced to be there, doesn't want to be there at all. But it was at a winter retreat that I was forced to go to, that God just got a hold of my heart. And there was something like all of a sudden my faith became alive. Like I was like, oh, I get it. And there were other people, and I know this sounds super shallow, but it was real. There was other people who I thought were cool, who were committed to following Jesus. And I was like, there's a spot for me in this environment. Back home still feels weird because it's an older church. It's a smaller church. And so camp just became the thing. And I went back the next summer as a camper. I went back the summer after that as on, staff member, and eventually became a counselor. Way too soon. It should not have been, but there were some people who took me under their wing, told me how to do it. And I remember sharing the gospel with the cabin, like that first week, the first night. And I told them I'd wait outside if anybody wanted to come and make a decision for Jesus. And I'm sitting out there by myself and nobody's coming. I'm like, I am so not good at this. And right before I was ready to give up, and the door started to jiggle, I quick sat back down, and this kid named Wally comes walking out. And Wally, I'll never forget, because of this story. And also he wore the same pair of shorts every day in summer camp. And he came out, we sat on the bench, kind of went over the gospel again. He prayed and he's crying and I'm crying. And he goes back in, and I remember looking up to the stars and just saying to God, if you let me do this for the rest of my life, it'd be awesome. And just as sure as I'm sitting here, I just felt God say, great, because this is what you're going to do for the rest of the year. And that was so strong that I pushed. Like I was like, no, I don't want to be a pastor. Like, no, my grandfather was, and it was some legacy stuff, but I'm like, nope, that's not for me. And just started this wrestling match. Right. And eventually, as he always does, God wins, and went to Bible college. It's now called Cairn University, and met my wife, and actually started in ministry as a full-time senior pastor for 2 years. We could have a whole podcast about just those 2 years, where my wife and I are 23 and the average age is 70, and there's 45 people. So that was very difficult. I feel I started out in ministry in a very difficult situation. But we started working with teenagers and built a youth group from nothing. And I just thought, maybe this is what God has designed me for. And as I started kind of thinking through that, my wife and other friends were like, how thick-headed are you? Like, this is kind of exactly what you're made to be. And so that was kind of my journey into youth ministry, which lasted another 26 years until we just got to the point where, not that I've reached a point of like, oh, now I have a ton of information and stuff to share, but just really kind of got to a place of going, I don't know if I have it in the tank to do this again. And so we started to explore other options, and we finally decided, because of something that had happened a long time ago, and I know we're going to get to that in a minute, but we decided now is the time to leave that role in the church and youth ministry and step out into a broader, like, let's just walk alongside of youth pastors. Like, let's just care for them, coach them, love them, and be there for them. And so we've been doing that for the last 4 years, and absolutely love this season of ministry we're in.
Dude, so cool. I love what you're about. I love your heart, because I think it's imperative that when you're in the trenches of ministry, you have a battle buddy. You have somebody that actually has been there, has done that, has understood, and they're a safe person that you can call and vent, or be encouraged by or prayed for. And any single person who has been in ministry for any amount of time knows that who that person is or who
Yeah.
those people are, and you need them, and it is important. I'm like, we need 300 more Todd Pearages. We need, 5 more Eric Millers. We need we need we need more of those people that are going to be in the trenches with our ministry professionals, because it's hard. And
Yeah.
so we really do kind of, my goal for this episode and this conversation is to try and pull out of you some of that wisdom to help prevent pastors from uh, burnout, from the real life uh, battle wounds that can happen in ministry, and keep your ministry leaders grounded, to engage in honest, open conversation, and know that there's resources that are out there for you. And so even if you're a senior pastor and you're listening to this episode, if you're not a youth pastor, I hope that you are encouraged by how to lead and navigate with your student ministry leader and your pastors. And to that end, like, Todd is a phenomenal resource for us, and I'm excited just to have this conversation.
Well, thanks. It's so funny, even as you say that, like, there was, I don't remember which one it was. It was an old war movie I remember watching, and it's kind of like the new recruits come in, and they're all like super excited, and they're all like buttoned up, and they walk by a group of people who've been in it, right? And they're all just standing there, and the way they look at each other was like, I remember what that was like walking off of that, right? And now you're walking into it, and so it's not gonna take long, and you're gonna look like me. And and there wasn't of like, hey, let me tell you, let me be there for you. And ministry is not all terrible. Like, there's some great moments, but even in those moments, we have to even know, like, how do we celebrate that well, and how do we not let it go to our heads, and how do we manage all of those things. And just having someone that can just kind of say, hey, I'm just a few steps ahead of you, let's just walk on this journey together, is so valuable. And I'm blown away that God has allowed us to do that and be in this season where we're able to just be that for so many.
I love it. All right, so you mentioned Wally in that moment. What are others, as you look back in time, at maybe those key moments that shaped your heart for youth pastors or ministry leaders?
Yeah, one of the big ones that always comes up is a guy named Marty. Marty was a pastor who's just a few years older than me, and while I was at the camp, the pastors in that denomination would come for like a week to kind of catch up at the end of summer. And because I live close, they would ask me to work like just in the dish pit for that the group of pastors that came. And he was the one who would put on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and play basketball with me. And I had no idea then, but he was shaping my philosophy of ministry, right? Like, he could sit there with a Bible and go through and a notebook, or he could just live life. He could, and as we're playing basketball, there were so many nuggets of wisdom. And Marty is a guy to this day, when I need, when I need something, when I kind of need to process something, when I'm stuck, or he's one of the first people that I call, because he's just been there. And if you would meet him, and if Marty ever listens to this, he knows I mean the most affectionate way, you would be like, that's the guy, right? Because he's not the guy who's all put together and who looks perfect, and but his heart is amazing. And I remember thinking, if that guy can be a pastor, there might be hope for me, because I'm not perfect. I'm not all buttoned up. I'm more comfortable in shorts and a t-shirt, just like Marty. And that just became like my hero and my mentor for a long time.
Well, I love it. I love that you have those examples. I think, if we're honest, all of us do. And everybody has a Marty in our life that we can look at and go, it's because of this person and their example that's why I'm in ministry now. And even the realization, I love what you're saying of if he can do it, I could do it. And the example of those who have gone before us and paved a way, or shaped, molded our ministry models, and helped, even maybe for some, it's learning the negatives of of what not to
What
do.
not to do. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
there's that part too. But Todd, when it comes to student ministry leaders, this is where you shine. And so I've got to witness now firsthand to see it. I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, and I'm a big fan of what you're doing. And so when you think about student ministry leaders, student pastors, what are you most passionate about when it comes to them? And then share why. Why is your heart burdened for student ministry?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I'm trying to even in real time think, how do I want to answer that? How do I want to frame it? Obviously, if you know me, you know I'm a story guy. And so I think if it's okay, I'll just kind of just real quick, kind of, and I think it'll answer both of those questions. So it was almost 20 years ago. I was hired at a church, making a really long story, or part of the story really short at this point, to say just I should not have accepted the position. Um, what I learned in hindsight was that the church wasn't exactly truthful on some key things, which, being naive and young in ministry, I never thought that would happen. Right? I never thought a church would not be completely honest. And so through a course of events, realized that they had exited their senior pastor, and there was a little bit of a cover up. And the person who was supposed to be taking over, they actually decided not to do that. And it was very messy. I did kind of what I would instinctively do, is I just put my head down and went to work in the youth ministry and tried to stay out of all the other stuff. And we were there for 2 years. They finally hire a new pastor. So we were there again, completely without a senior pastor for 2 years. And the guy they hire, like, seems like it's great. And at this point, the ministry is going well. Like, we're growing, going on this amazing retreat. We come home, and on Tuesday when we go to the office, because Monday was a holiday, I get an email like, "Hey, can we meet today?" from the senior pastor, who's now there 6 months. And between me, you, and the listeners, I got that email, and I'm still walking on cloud nine because the weekend was so awesome that I'm thinking that they might be having like a party for me. Like, this might be a bonus. I might walk in and there might be balloons and one of those big checks waiting for me. And so when I walked in and he asked me to close the door, and we sat down, and he just said, "Listen, there's no way to say this easily, so I'm just going to say it. The elders, basically, we met on Thursday, and we're going to ask you to resign." And I remember just kind of shaking my head thinking, that doesn't sound like bonus. Right. And what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. And my first thought was, hey, this youth group tomorrow is a big deal because all the kids wear their t-shirts, and it's like a recap, and we have the video. And so that was my first question, right? It wasn't about me. It wasn't even about my family. It was like, hey, well, we have youth group on Wednesdays, but like, how are we? And he's like, we'll take care of that. And that was where it started to sink in. Oh, is this immediate? And he said, yeah, we're just going to ask you to, he's like, I'll take your keys and your credit card, and we'll let you in to clean out your office. We were living in a house that the church owned. And so they're like, you can stay there for 2 months, 2 months severance. And just being totally devastated as I walked out of there that day. I walked across the street to the house that we were living in, and my wife kind of met me in the living room and jokingly said, "What are you doing home? Did you get fired today?" And I looked at her and I was like, I did. And it was the first time like that, again, it started like another piece hit. And she's like, "What do you mean? What are we going to do?" And I go, I don't know. I don't know. And that event led to a series of events, which kind of ended with us living in a 1-bedroom apartment. We had 2 kids in middle school. My kids would flip a coin each night to decide who slept on the couch and who slept on the mattress. I was so angry with the church and with God. I was allowing bitterness to grow. And in the midst of there's some amazing stories that God kind of showed me he hadn't let go of me. And it wasn't until we were at a church service and we just experienced a moment where healing started. And the question that haunted me for a long time, even, and through that, was like, man, what do people do who don't have, like, it was my dad who said, I have this 1-bedroom apartment you can live in. I'm like, what do people do who don't have that? What do they do when this happens? And then I started to discover this happens a lot. right? It's not an isolated thing. And so that seed was planted, that this is going to continue to happen, and who's going to be there to care for these men and women, for these families. And one last piece of that story, that there was one elder who voted, who dissented, who didn't vote to have me exited. And his wife would often come to me and just say, God's going to use this. God's going to use this. And I don't know if you or anyone listening has ever been so mad that they go, can you please stop saying that? Like, cause I don't want to hear it. And I remember I said that to her one time, and she, got a little teary eyed, and she's like, I know you're hurting, but you have to believe God's going to use this. And when we joined Standing Stone, they were one of the first couples we called, cause we raise our support. We don't charge for a single thing we do for youth pastors. And I remember just asking, like, the first thing I said is, well, you were right. God is using this. And it really, for us, was kind of the whole time we were in youth ministry, my wife and I would say, we want to be for kids what we didn't have as students. Like, I didn't have a youth group growing up. I had that summer camp. And one day we were just driving around, and my wife looked at me and she goes, it's the same story. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, we now get to be for youth pastors and their families what we didn't have. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, man, God is so good, right? That when we were in trouble, he found ways to bless us and encourage us. And now, just like 2 Corinthians says, we get to turn around and be that for others. So that's kind of part of it. And I guess it's just like, I don't know where it came from other than I was a youth pastor, right? That this is like this community that I felt embraced me and I wanted to be a part of. And now I get to kind of walk alongside some who are struggling or really hurting or just need a little bit of encouragement.
Yep. Man, Todd, if I would allow myself to, I could probably get teary-eyed about that. Just the hurt, because I can relate, and I think anybody can. There was a time where I would, have people quote James 1:2-3, and I'm like, I would be okay to like tear that page out of my Bible. Like, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a joke, right?
Yep. And especially when that trial or that is caused, like, God, I'd be like, your kids did this to me. Like,
yes.
What is that all about? Like, and so, yeah, there is that deeper level of hurt that we experience, I think.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then when you meet someone who's kind of been through some things, you go, oh yeah, you get it. You get it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing that, because I think any youth leader who spends any amount of time with you, they feel that connection and they understand, like, yeah, ministry is hard and no church is perfect. No pastor is perfect. No leaders are perfect. And we're going to hurt each other, and we're going to do boneheaded things, and we're going to do, things that are the enemy's going to use against us in all kinds of ways to cause division and deceive us. And ultimately, like, we can look at all of that and zoom out and go, yep, God is real. And spiritual warfare, Ephesians 6, is on the money. And we need to armor up and storm the gates of hell with our squirt guns blazing. So let's go. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yep. And
I love your heartbeat in that. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just wanted to cap on what you just said there, that for 26 years, I didn't put this together. And I truly believe God kind of shielded me from knowing or putting these two thoughts together. But I was in a room full of youth pastors, and somebody just asked why. Like, why do you think youth pastors are so beat up sometimes? And it was like, oh, wait. And what I kind of almost heard myself saying was, this Barna research that we all quote, we believe that most people who are believers made that decision before their 18th birthday. Then wouldn't it make sense for our enemy to attack that part of the church? And I just went, why did I not put that together? Like, and again, if you know me a little bit, I'm the last guy who walks into the room and goes, I'm the most important person here, right? So being on a staff with all the other pastors on, right? I would never, I don't even think I'd want to know that. I wouldn't want to know, hey, I'm kind of the most important one here. But, and again, it's not that, but it really is there. we have an assignment, and statistics tell us that we need to get it done by a certain time. Like we need to be really effective in this area of the church. And the fact that we kind of beat that part of the church up is just beyond me. And so I do think that it is a spiritual battle that we need to be mindful of and really protect our youth leaders, our youth pastors, our volunteers so much.
Yep. So we say a lot that student ministry is the hardest ministry within the church to lead, to navigate. And so oftentimes it's the ministry that needs a lot of support. And
Yeah.
so as a senior pastor, if you have a part-time, a full-time youth pastor or youth leader on your team, these are some of the things that we want you to be aware of. So Todd, let's just double click and go a little deeper into this part of the conversation. Help us identify what are some of those most common challenges that you see that you help walk with youth pastors through and even leaders are facing today.
Yeah. So I would say before I answer that, I want to just to kind of give the overall, because any one of these things can become a big thing. And I was at a marriage conference years ago, and the speaker took a quarter out of his pocket and he holds it up like this. And he's like, let me ask you this question. What's bigger, this quarter or the sun? And the room's silent. And he goes, guys, it's not a trick question. And it felt like a trick question, right? And everybody's like, well, of course, the sun. And he goes, of course, right, the sun. He goes, but do you know that if I move this quarter closer to my eye, I can blot out the entire sun? Like I can't even see it. And I'm like, oh, right. And when we focus on the thing that annoys us or whatever, and as I mentioned, my wife and I have been married 30 years. You don't think there's been some quarters, right, that my wife has found about me that she's like, oh, that is so annoying or whatever, right? And I have said for years, the church and the youth pastor, they don't have that kind of relationship, right? That it's like going on a blind date and then getting married the next time you meet, and then expecting it to work, right? And my wife and I, we've been through things, but we've survived because we stood in front of family and friends and God and said, we're in this till we're dead. Divorce isn't an option. We're in it. And so when something comes up, we got to figure it out. And too many times I think before we even go through the list, it's like, that's the big one. We just don't have the level of commitment to each other. And I would say it's on both sides, right? Like there's plenty of men and women out there who are using it as a stepping stone. They just want to go on to the next thing. But if there was a level of commitment, like like if pastors are listening, listen, you hired someone and you thought, man, this person's great. And probably a week into it, you're like, they're okay, right? And then you found more and more things. And then at some point, you have to make a decision. Do I invest in this person? Am I in it for the long haul with them? Or do I go find a new one? And for years, I think we just said, I'm going to go find a new one. And so then guys get jaded, right? Men and women get jaded. They go into the next one. And then they start going, well, if I don't like this, I'm going to bail. And so I think that's the big thing. And I think maybe the second thing, it's not always a generational thing, but there is a bit of, new, and I've been in it. And I experienced this in a church where the senior pastor, he was new, but he was 65 and was very outspoken about, I'm here to retire. I got a couple years and I'm like 26. And to use the analogy, I saw one time a split screen of the beaches of Normandy. And it was like on one panel was like what it looks like today, right? On a nice sunny day, it was a nice beach. And on the other side was the storming of the beach of Normandy. And I was like, that's how he and I saw kind of like the community or church or the assignment. It's like, he was like looking for a place to sit, and enjoy it. And I'm like, and you've already said a couple of times, let's go storm the gates of hell with a squirt gun. Like that was how I was. And so there was enough that if somebody had come, put their arm around me and go, hey, you gotta just calm down. Like he's not worshiping the devil because he's not ready to do that thing. Like he's tired. He's seen things. And you need to kind of calm down and be patient and wait it out. And so I look back and I go, of course I made a ton of mistakes, right? I probably offended people because I didn't care, right? Or I missed appointments and I didn't turn in receipts. I did all of those things. But at some point I look at it and I go, had there been somebody who said, hey, you're not perfect, but we're going to invest and we're going to make it you the best that you can be, that would have been a very different story.
Yeah. Todd, thank you. Is really good. I think there are times where the grass is always greener on the other
Yeah.
side in ministry. When we look at, because that can go the other way too, right? So youth pastors can look at senior pastors and go, they're okay. Like when you're in the interview process, you're like, wow, this guy's a great communicator, and the vision and all the things are there, and it's so nice to have somebody who leads or whatever it is, right? And so then you look at the other side, and you've been there. It's like marriage. Once you get to know each other a little bit, and then you're like, man, it drives me crazy that they squeeze the toothpaste wrong, or that they do.
Right.
And in church, on ministry teams, that stuff happens all the time, but we don't talk about it.
Yes.
We don't identify it. And so at Momentum, we're passionate about those things. Like, let's just have the awkward, honest conversation, and let's talk about it, because you do need to know that ministry is hard, and that the enemy is real, and that we're in your corner, and we want to help you thrive and succeed. So, Todd, to that end, I think if we go the other way, what are some blind spots maybe that youth pastors often have, that let's beat up on them maybe? What blind spots do youth pastors have that maybe some of them don't see until it's too late?
Yeah. So the biggest one, again, is just a short story, I promise. A good friend of mine was at his church. He was a youth pastor. We went to college together, and he was there for a few years, really doing well. And we were just talking, and I think what we wear to the office came up. And he was like in khakis and a button down. And I was like, really? And he's like, I'm a professional. And I went, what? And I was like, it was so convicting to me, because I'm like, I've been playing a youth pastor. He's been being a youth pastor. And I do think that there is a bit of the, and I so again, I own it, but I feel like I wasn't truly prepared to be a professional. I was seen as someone who was good with kids and was fun, and then just, here we go, we're going to give you this segment of the church. And I really feel that if somebody had said, like, hey, this is an actual profession, right? Like, here's kind of the standard is what we need, it would have been a different thing. And so I do think that sometimes we as youth pastors don't take the job as seriously as we should. We don't see it as a profession. We're really good at some of the things and not good at the other things, and when we just avoid the other things. I would also say, and this probably 1 and 2, because they're so connected, is that no one told me that like 70 to 80% of the job was dealing with adults, right? Like, you go into it thinking this is like pizza parties and lock-ins. I got it. And then you find yourself sitting in a room with elders who are serious people sometimes, and you go, my jokes aren't landing in here, right? And so I do think that if, and that's what we get to do now, right? I get to go, hey, here's some of the mistakes I made, right? Like, maybe we don't wear that to the office. Maybe you can, but should you?
Right.
Maybe we work a little bit harder on those admin skills that you're not good at, instead of just saying you're not good at them. Let's work on it. And those were the things that, when I look back, I wish I had someone coaching me in a loving way, instead of like what I felt I heard and how I was treated was in a demeaning, argumentative way. And then that didn't help me improve. It probably in some level made it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I have found a ton in the coaching that I get to do, and even in like our cohorts. So, Momentum Ministry Partners, we have senior pastor cohorts and student ministry cohorts, and we just earlier this year in 2025 launched a brand new youth pastor cohort and had 18 youth pastors, and we were
Awesome.
down in Cincinnati, and we talked. The very first thing was, what are some expectations in order to, what does it mean to be a ministry professional, right? And so some of those very things we talked about, like I had a list, I think, of, I was trying to make it a top 10 and ended up being like top 19 or something. Like,
right.
There's so many that just keep coming up, and then you have a conversation with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, add that to the list. And it's those kind of things that, like, it's hard. And in ministry, especially in youth ministry, you often have to wear so many hats, where you have to be able to work with parents. You have to be able to build a team of volunteers. You have to be able to be good with finances and run the budget and count and like all the things. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's complicated.
And still be relevant with a group of middle school or high school students.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And know and teach God's word, because every stupid idea on planet Earth is in the palm of these kids' hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a challenge for sure. And so if you're a senior pastor listening to this, I think we would both highly recommend that you just lean in and invest in them. Momentum is a part of that. Standing Stone wants to be a part of that. There are resources for you to help invest in your youth pastors,
Yep.
sending them to the Youth Leader Summit, like things like that, investing even in your finances, in your church budget, allocate resources to be a part of a cohort, to go to the training conference, to be equipped and rub shoulders with other youth pastors and guys like Todd and I that are going to be able to help encourage you and put wind in your sail. That stuff goes a long, long way.
And I love that. And I would encourage senior pastors, and if any of you were youth pastors, or and I guess this lives sometimes in senior pastor world, like you could say something 100 times and then someone comes up to you and go, "Did you hear what Andy Stanley just said?" You're like, "I've been saying that for 20 years. Like, what do you mean?" Right. And sometimes another voice helps.
Yeah.
So your youth pastor's like just not getting those receipts in. Hey, find them a coach, find them someone who can come alongside and in a more gentle and encouraging way say, "Come on, man, this is going to happen if you don't get those receipts in. We got to figure it out."
Right.
And then let's help them figure it out.
Yep. Yep. I love that, because I often think of, if you're a ministry professional, you need a coach. If
Yeah.
you're going to be a professional in anything, you have a coach, right? You have somebody who's been there, done that, like you were saying earlier, to help come alongside you and can help show you the other side. I love what you just said of, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
let me show you a better way. Yeah. So that stuff is a big deal. Just to go the other side, what advice would you give to a youth pastor maybe who feels like they're running on empty, or maybe they don't know how to ask for help, and they're like, I am dying for that. I would love for, they're like subtly sending this episode to their senior pastor, like, listen to this conversation.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
advice do you give them?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so simple. I'm even embarrassed to kind of say it, but just ask for help, like get the help. Now, when we joined Standing Stone, we were kind of on the path to create the Youth Leader Oasis, and that has happened. But one of our highest values was we have to make this free. And the reason was, like, I had known youth leaders who went into their senior pastor's office or went to the elders and said, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. Can I get help?" And they just said, "It might just be better if you just pack up your stuff." And so some people have been jaded and go like, "I don't want to ask for help because and I don't have the finances to get a coach or whatever." Everything we do is completely free. In the notes, I'm sure somewhere in this podcast will be my email, my phone number. My whole thing is like, I don't make money the more youth pastors who come, right? Like,
Yep.
so it was just here for a conversation. There is something inside of most of us that we usually don't ask for help until it's too late. And I just don't want that to be your story. I had countless conversations where the thing that they're talking about, I literally in my mind go, 6 months ago, this wouldn't have been a problem. 6 months ago, we could have figured it out, but I think it's too late. I think you're on a road that inevitably leads to you not being on that church staff. I don't like having those conversations. And so even if it's just, you're like, "That's not that bad," just try to find someone. I think your local networks. When I was a youth pastor, I'd go to the network and I'd find like the oldest guy in the room. And I'm like, I'm going to sit next to him. Cause like he, again, has been there. He's seen some things. And then I became that guy. Like I became the oldest guy in the room. And I was like, this is fun. This is fun being the guy who goes, "Oh yeah, I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if I would run the 4-wheeler into the sanctuary, but let me get back to you." Nope, I wouldn't do it. But like you just, and it doesn't matter what the question is. I mean, I had a call a couple of weeks ago. the question was, how many meetings do you have with your leaders? Like, what's a good number? Like, that's such a good question, right? Now, again, as I dug a little bit, he was getting pressure, too many, too few from two different audiences. And he's trying to navigate that, which then leads to that conversation. How do you navigate the expectations that you have from different audiences? Now we have that one kind of covered. Let's go talk about how do we not make people happy, but understand this is kind of how we're doing it.
Yep.
I love those conversations.
So good. A huge part of this season, when season 4 of the Momentum podcast is been, I want churches and ministry professionals to know what are the resources that are out there that are for you, that are of value, that are of worth, and that are affordable. Because so many times there are 1,001 free, 1,000,001 free resources for you when you blow up your marriage and your ministry. And I'm like, why do we have to wait for them to get there to give them those things? How about what if you're a youth pastor and you actually like your job and you just want to thrive and succeed, and everything has a cost to it? And so I'm like, go be creative. There are things out there. And so go back and listen to other episodes, or just look at what we've done this season on the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast, and you will find all kinds of resources that are available to you.
Love that.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So Todd, let's keep kind of in this tension of senior pastors and youth pastors. How can senior pastors and church leadership better support their youth pastors? We've danced around it. We've kind of talked about it, but give maybe the senior pastors just some other ideas or things that you've seen done that you want to echo.
Yeah, I would say the first thing is just know them, right? Know who they are. There's all kinds of tools, all kinds of personality tests, love language. When you have a holistic knowledge of the people you work with, you can get the best out of them, and you can be the best for them. I do think, and we mentioned, that being in the interview and seeing a pastor and kind of getting to know them and thinking, man, this guy is going to mentor me, or this woman is going to be my hero. And then you get there and they're like, listen, I kind of hired you to do a job. I'm busy. I can't mentor you. And I think it's a huge gap in expectations. And so it doesn't have to be that. It just, on your own, just be a learner of people and who you hire and how they tick. Again, being a Steeler fan, I'm going to use this example. Like, Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw did not get along, right? Chuck Noll was a yeller. Terry Bradshaw didn't need that. And there had tension through their whole relationship. Fast forward a whole bunch of years, another young quarterback in Pittsburgh named Ben Roethlisberger has another yeller for a coach. And when Cower realized that his young quarterback wasn't responding to him yelling, he went and hired a guy that could have a conversation, it wasn't coddling Ben, but it was encouraging him and speaking that language that then resonated. And he got the best out of Ben Roethlisberger because he was aware enough to go, somebody else needs to have that conversation with him. And so, I would say, again, senior pastors sometimes, and rightfully so, it's like, it is a little bit of my way or the highway. Like, you have the seat, but get the best out of your team is to get to know them. And that includes where they're not good, and either help them with that and not exploit it, but also then celebrate, right? And we all need affirmation. I have never been more aware of the imposter syndrome that everyone that I feel like ever talked to now. I'm like, oh, you have a little bit of imposter syndrome, and you just need somebody to come alongside of you and go, you're doing a great job. Like, keep going. I think you're doing great.
Yep.
It is amazing how simple some of those things are, but they just get lost in time, right? We get busy. And so I would just say those would be the two things, as much as you can. And again, that's not earth shattering. That's so simple. Just know your team and affirm them. Because when the difficult times come, you're built up the equity to walk in the office and say, hey, we're having a problem.
Yeah.
So those would be my top two.
That's so good. We did this season, kind of, if you're looking for something more on this, if you're a senior pastor and you're like, how do I invest in my team? Give me more on that. There's an episode earlier this season with Dan Gregory, who's a senior pastor, and I happen to know that he does this with all of his staff members. Todd, he walks them through exactly what you just said: personality assessment, love language. He'll even sit down with their spouse and go, "Tell me how to encourage them. How do I communicate with them? How can I lead them better?" And ask their spouse to tell them with them sitting in the room. I love it. So go back and listen to that episode. If you're a youth pastor and you're like, how do I lead up? We did an episode with Rothan Bedford, who's a youth pastor down in Columbus, and he did a great job of talking about how to lead up. And so, again, these are resources for you to continue to dive into these conversations if you're looking for more on that. So, Todd, one last question for you here. What practical steps would you just encourage pastors, ministry leaders to take to stay healthy and to thrive in ministry for the long haul? What advice would you give there?
Man, again, such a great question. And I'm going to use a bit of a cliche, but I'm going to add to it, right? I feel for years, we are encouraged to be in networks, and we were always told, don't do ministry alone. And I totally wholeheartedly agree with that, right? Like to just run ideas by other people who are doing what you do is so valuable. But the thing I would add is don't do life alone. And if you've been to like a network meeting where you have lunch and you kind of everybody shares their thing, and then you've had a conversation at your car that's lasted longer than the meeting you just left, that's what I'm talking about. Because that conversation was more than likely not a conversation about a lock-in. It was about a real life thing, tension with a staff member, issue with a spouse, and we cannot do life alone, right? We use a statistic all the time: 70% of pastors don't have a close friend, and it's just who can I sit with and be myself and kind of share some of the struggles and the hurts and even the joys, like who can kind of gets me in what I do. So that would be at the top of the list. Don't do ministry alone, but don't do life alone.
So good. All right, bro. Well, we'll put it in the show notes, but where can people find you, communicate, tell us where we can connect, how to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I mean, I would love it, however you find us, when you need it or if you need it. So social media is always great, right? Like I say this all the time, and I feel that it's somewhat true. So I'll just say it, and somebody can fact check me if they want. But as far as I know, I'm the only Todd Pearage in the world. So anything with Todd Pearage, you just social media, whatever. I usually get to have that handle, which is fun. Eric Miller, I'm assuming has
a
bazillion. Yeah.
There are
and
thousands of us.
Exactly. Yeah. There's literally, I can't find another one. And then the Youth Leader Summit is just at the Youth Leader Summit, Youth Leader Oasis, basically the same thing, Youth Leader Oasis. We do have 2 websites. So if you're looking for just someone coaching, again, my wife and I, we do this. So if you're a female in ministry, my wife would love to connect with you. If you're a spouse, if your husband is the ministry leader and your spouse, you just want somebody to talk to. My wife has lived that life for 26 years. And so all that information and what we do and how to connect with us is at youthleaderoasis.com. And then, as you mentioned, the event, especially right now, if you're close to Michigan, if you're in that part of the country, we have one coming up in September. It's super affordable. It's like $199, includes your room, your meals. Josh Griffin is going to be there. David Wood is going to be there. Eric Miller is going to be there. It's going to be really fun. We intentionally underprogram it, so it's meals and 4 sessions and lots of hang time for you to nap or rest or get to know other people. And that's youthleadersummit.com. So
yeah,
that's it.
Awesome, bro. Thank you so much. I just feel it would be appropriate to end this episode if you would be willing, bro, to just pray for our ministry leaders, pray for these pastors.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, let's pray. God, we thank you so much. When we stop and think about this incredible opportunity that you have given to us to care for your kids, to care for other kids, God, that we're in this together. We have not reached any kind of level of got it figured out or perfection or anything like that. But God, you have just called us in this season to care for your church. And God, we know we don't always get it right. We know that sometimes we get it really wrong. But God, we want in the deepest parts of our hearts and of our souls, we just want to make you smile. God, we just want to do the things that you've called us to do and to do them well. And so I just pray for ministry leaders right now who are listening, who are feeling maybe discouraged, feeling maybe that something has just happened, that they just are thinking they're not good at this, that they've made a huge mistake. God, I just ask that you would speak to their heart. God, that they would today especially just be encouraged. God, we thank you for one anotherness. God, that you have wired us and put people in our lives to walk alongside of us. And so, God, I pray for today, anyone who's lonely. God, I just ask that you would bring someone into their life that can just journey with them. And God, I thank you for Eric and what they're doing, their team. God, we just ask that you would bless that. God, that you would just continue to expand their territory and their influence. God, that they would just be able to reach more and more students and ministry leaders. So, God, thank you. Thank you for the bumps in the road. Thank you for the waves that have crashed on us. God, thank you for the good times and the bad times. And God, we just ask that we continue to serve you well until you call us home. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thanks, Todd, so much. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. As always, we would love for you to share this if you found this helpful. Subscribe so that you can be in tune for the next episode. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope you found it to be valuable. And if you did, would you share it with someone else in your network who might enjoy it? Also, would you please go on and subscribe, rate, and review it? That way you don't miss any more and somebody else will be able to find it too. Also, because we want to be your trusted resource, if you have a question or topic that you would like us to discuss on an upcoming episode, send that to us via email to info@buildmomentum.org, or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. You can find us there at Momentum Ministry Partners. Also, if you need more information on our ministry, be sure to check out our website at buildmomentum.org. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next time.